About a month ago, I put out a video talking about which mobile suits I think would be included in a LEGO Gundam custom minifigure wave. You guys seem to like it, so today we're going to be talking about which characters I think would be included in a Gundam LEGO custom minifigure wave. Before I dive into it though, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, head on down to the comments section below and let me know what characters you think would be included if LEGO were to do a custom minifigure wave based around the Gundam franchise. One thing to note first of all is that this includes a total of 12 characters. That is typically the LEGO custom minifigure waves. Now, they used to be like 16, now they tend to be about 12, so we're sticking with that 12 limit, and this is across the entire Gundam franchise, so it's not just limited to the original series, Universal Century, Specific Alternate Universe. This is around the entire Gundam franchise at large. Kicking us off with our first character, of course, we have Amuro Ray, the main protagonist of the original Gundam series, and you could argue the face of the franchise, at least in terms of characters. Now, self-explanatory one, of course, Amuro Ray, the original protagonist, not putting him in this wave would be the equivalent of not including Luke Skywalker in the LEGO Star Wars custom minifigure wave, or if they were to do like a LEGO Final Fantasy custom minifigure wave, not including Cloud Strife in there. You know, we're talking like arguably the face in terms of characters of these franchises. Of course, Amuro Ray is going to be in there. Second up there we have Char Aznavour, again from the original Mobile Suit Gundam series. Again, much like with Amuro, you can argue that Char is definitely a face of the franchise. I would say in terms of looks, probably the most iconic Gundam character, and I think he's definitely one that could quite easily sell this wave. I think it's one that people would jump at because they would want this guy as a minifigure. So much like with Amuro, self-explanatory, if you can't have Amuro in there, you've got to have Char and vice versa. So these two characters definitely would have to be in this wave. Moving on, then we'll move on to an alternate universe. Now I'm kind of going in order with these, but yeah, number 3 we have Hero Yui, of course the main protagonist from Gundam Wing. Now Gundam Wing is a very popular Gundam series, one of the most popular, I would argue, when it comes to, you know, the franchise. Probably the most popular entries are like Seed, Wing, and then like the original series, I guess, in terms of like how iconic they are, how they're perceived by, you know, the masses. And I think especially with Gundam Wing, because it's very popular in America and Lego generally appeals more to the West. Like, I guess it does appeal to the East, but it's very popular in the West, like as a brand. So Gundam Wing, because it's popular in the West, because Lego's popular in the West, it absolutely makes sense that you would have some Gundam Wing stuff in here. And of course, Hiro Yui, probably the most iconic character from that series. Moving on to number 4, though, we have Relina Peacecraft. I think if you have Hero, you probably should have Relina as well. Not a character that I would put in there. I would definitely replace her with someone else if it was down to personal preference. And I did consider putting Domon Kashu in here, but I thought, no, I think they'd stick with Wing stuff. Putting Relina in here, yeah, I think probably makes the most sense. Now, Zex is probably a bit more of an iconic character, but because you've already got Char, they look very, very similar. And I think in minifigure form, especially, they would look very similar. So I don't know whether they would go that route. And yeah, female representation within the Gundam Wing franchise, or within the Gundam Wing series, makes sense to put Relina in here as well. Moving on to number 5, we have Kira Yamato. Again, Gundam Seed is a very popular series, and Kira is a very popular character as well, a very well-known character. So I think, again, you're going to have a lot of Gundam Seed representation because it is a very popular series, and I feel like the characters in that are more iconic in terms of their looks and more well recognized, I guess, by the larger masses than probably the characters in Gundam Wing, if we're being completely honest. Now, when it comes to mobile suits, there's a debate there, but I think in terms of just the looks of characters, Kira's probably a more iconic looking character than, say, Hero is. Down to personal preference as well, I love Seed, so if this was a personal list, as opposed to what I think would actually happen, I would also probably include Kira as well. Moving on to number 6, there we have Lacus Clyne. Now, I think Lacus Clyne is probably one of the most iconic looking female characters within the Gundam franchise, and I think she's probably actually the most iconic as a character anyway. So again, I think she's, you know, a great character to include in here. Purely as a minifigure as well, I think there's a lot of interesting things you could do with the outfit. I think the hairpiece could be really interesting as well. So I think, like, as a minifigure, she'd be one that people want just purely because it would look really good as a minifigure. And also, again, she's a popular character, she would absolutely be in here. Next up at number 7, we've got Atheron Zala. We're doing some more Seed stuff because I feel like these characters visually are very iconic. And, you know, I could have not included Atheron and just gone Kira and Lacus, but I think that Atheron is a very iconic character. And there's maybe a little bit of personal bias there, sure, because I really love Atheron. I think he is like probably my favorite character within the Gundam franchise. So I would personally include him, but I think they'd put him in there as well. I feel like if you're going to have one of these three characters, you kind of have to have all three. If I was to pick one of the three to include, if I had to choose, it would probably make the most sense to go with Lacus. I think that's the one that they would go with as well, because again, visually as a character, she's probably the most iconic and most recognizable. But yeah, Atheron, I would 100% include in here if it was down to personal preference, but I think they would also include it as well. Moving on though, we move on to number 8, where we have Mikazuki August from Iron-Blooded Orphans. This is when we go into the kind of more recent stuff, and a lot of these are, I guess, less so about how iconic they are as looking characters, and more so about like they're more recent and people know them just a little bit more because, again, like Lego, largely it does appeal to a younger demographic. It does definitely have its adult fans as well, probably myself included, and that's the reason why they do these like, you know, big like collectors 18 plus sets nowadays, because Mikazuki is a more recent Gundam protagonist. They would probably include him in here, and I think it'd be a good choice to include as well. But again, that's more so down to like how well known, how iconic. Iron-Blooded Orphans is kind of at like the forefront of people's minds at the moment because of the 10th anniversary and then the Erdo Hunt film release as well. So it's a part of the franchise that is being talked about actively. So I guess in that regard, yeah, they'd probably go with a character like this. Then we move on to number 9, and we've got Soletta Mercury. Recency bias, definitely, but I think she's become, in and of herself, very recognizable. She is probably one of the faces of the Gundam franchise now. When you look at all the stuff that Bandai put out where it's got, you know, characters in there, you'd usually have Amuro and then you'd have Soletta. Like, they use Soletta as like a face of Gundam to a degree because she's a pretty iconic character, and I think she's just very distinctive and recognizable. Like, you see the hair, you see, you know, the white Astakashia uniform, you see the kind of Tanuki eyebrows, and she's got a pretty iconic character design. So again, like, not only visually is she iconic, but as a character, a lot of people connected with her. She's incredibly popular at the moment, and there's an argument to be made that she is like the modern face of the Gundam franchise. So I think 100% Soletta would be in here. And on that same line of thinking, at number 10, we've got Miorine Rembrandt. Again, I think if you're going to do Soletta, you also have to do Miorine. You kind of have to have them both together. Again, like I said at the start with Amuro and Shah, if you're doing one, you've got to have the other. But I think even more than that with Soletta and Miorine, you really can't have one without having the other. Like, they come as a duo. Not only because they are in a relationship, but I just feel like they're set up as a duo of protagonists in many ways. Soletta is definitely the protagonist of Witch from Mercury, but Miorine has as big of a role, has as big of a presence, and they're more often than not sharing the spotlight together. So I definitely think that both of them would be included. And Witch from Mercury, very popular series, so I think these would go pretty down pretty well as well. And then moving on to number 11. Again, this is a very recency bias kind of one. We have Amate Yuzuriha, aka Machu. G-Quix is the most recent series in the Gundam franchise. So in a way, like, she has become a little bit of a face. She's recognizable to people, especially ones that have recently got into Gundam. So again, I think because she's the latest protagonist, they of course would include her in here. And then last, but not quite least, we have Nyan. Once again, from G-Quix. I feel like they would try to get a fair bit of representation for G-Quix in there because, again, it is the most recent series, and I kind of went back and forth between would they do Nyan or would they do Shuji. I think Nyan's just a bit more recognizable as a character from G-Quix as opposed to Shuji. Like, they're kind of neck and neck to some degree, but Nyan has more of a presence in the series and has more screen time, you know, because Shuji disappears for like quite a large section of the series. And I just think they'd probably go with Nyan. Maybe they'd go with Shuji, I don't know. Like, I can kind of go back and forth on which one they would include, but they more so frame, like, in the marketing, Amate and Nyan as the two lead characters. So I feel like in this case, they would also do very similar. To run the list back again though, at number 1 we've got Amuro Ray, number 2 Shah Aznable, number 3 Hiro Yui, number 4 Relina Peacecraft, number 5 Kira Yamato, number 6 Lacus Klein, number 7 Atherin Zeller, number 8 Mikazuki August, number 9 Soletta Mercury, number 10 Miorine Rembrandt, number 11 Amate Yuzuriha, and number 12 Nian. So those are my picks for the 12 characters I think they would include in a LEGO Gundam custom minifigure series. Before I get out of here, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of Mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, like I said earlier, head on down to the comment section below. Let me know what figures you would include or characters you would include as custom minifigures within this wave. And if you'd like to see maybe similar videos like this in the future where I go over some custom minifigure waves that I think would happen for other Mecha series or Mecha anime at large, then let me know if you have any ideas, because I've enjoyed making these two videos. They're fun, creative, and yeah, I'm a fan of LEGO, I'm a fan of Gundam, I'm a fan of Mecha, so it allows me to kind of combine those two interests. Thank you once again for tuning into Mecha Chat today. I'll see you guys next time.